Mr. Speaker, the bill we are here to pass today brings much-needed support to crime victims across the country. The Bipartisan and Bicameral Victims' Voices Outside and Inside the Courtroom Effectiveness Victims' Voices Act passed the Senate through unanimous consent. I am proud to be the House lead on this important legislation. I'd like to thank my friend and colleague across the aisle, Representative Lucy McBath, for her work on this legislation and for her continued advocacy on behalf of victims. I would also like to take a moment to remember and acknowledge Ms. Jackson Lee. She was a co-sponsor of the bill and a longtime advocate for the rights of crime victims. My thoughts and prayers go out to her family. The purpose of the Victims' Voices Act is simple. It assures fairness for all crime victims in accessing and receiving restitution from convicted defendants. Supporting victims and holding criminals accountable has always been a top priority of Congress. In 1996, the Mandatory Victims Restitution Act was signed into law and required that defendants convicted of certain crimes, including violent crime, to pay restitution to their victims. These types of restitution can include lost income, child care costs incurred while participating in the investigation, or medical and non-medical care and treatment. In cases where a victim is a minor, deceased, or unable to act on their own behalf, a family member, legal guardian, or a person appointed by the court may assume the victim's rights. However, many jurisdictions have wrongfully ruled these individuals are precluded from receiving restitution for their own lost income or expenses. To think parents lovingly caring for their child who was a victim of a crime may not receive compensation for taking time off of work to help their child heal. Family members whose loved ones did not survive a brutal attack may not receive restitution. This is wrong. We should be thanking these brave and thoughtful citizens, and instead the government is casting them aside. This is an especially concerning issue in crimes of violence and in tribal communities, like my district, where locating and protecting missing and exploiting women and children is a major challenge. I urge the passage of this bill, and with that, I reserve. Those families of victims of crime should not be discriminated against. Our men and women in blue agree. This legislation is endorsed and supported by law enforcement organizations and victims' rights groups, including the National District Attorneys Association, RAVEN, National Children's Alliance, Major County Sheriffs of America, RAIN, and the National Native American Law Enforcement Association. Let's work together by lightening the burden for victims and their families and making it easier to finally access justice. Again, I want to thank Representative McBath for co-leading this bill with me in the House, and thank Senator Cornyn for his leadership on this important effort in the Senate. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on S 3706. Thank you, and I reserve the balance of my time. The victims and their families should receive full restitution when they are the victims of crimes. It's for that reason that I have supported and am sponsoring S 3706, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. With that, I yield.